Hello and welcome everyone. We have I think kind of fun and also informative specific message from Kazaya today. Um, I do want to remind everyone that while Kazaya is channeling, to please mute your mic so that background noise doesn't come through. Sometimes it can be difficult to edit that out of the recording. And this will be going on YouTube. And I want to remind everyone also that this is a public live channeling. And I also, and so I ask that you keep your personal questions to a minimum. We can answer some personal questions later off the recording, perhaps. I also do private sessions, and we can arrange those later as well. Either you can contact me through my Facebook, Troy J. Bacon, or my website, newbeinghypnosis.com. And I'm glad to be able to offer those as because I also enjoys answering questions live. He and I've also channeled Metatron, but um, they get a lot of enjoyment channeling and talking through this type of medium because otherwise they don't have this experience in their type of existence. So yeah, they love to bring through their messages and healing energy. I guess without further ado, I'll get started and because I
Yes.
will speak for a bit and then after he finishes his messages, then we'll open to Q&A, and this will be fun. Greetings to all of you, lovely earthlings, starseeds, light workers, shadow workers, and children of God. It is such an honor to be able to greet you in this way once again. I see that we have a bit more of an audience this time, and such lovely souls to be speaking to. I trust and know that you will all be enjoying and resonating with these messages. So, today's teaching, we are titling The Joy of Surrender. And there may be a few parts to explain to that. Some will be explained with examples and perhaps some parables. So, let's get into what this teaching is about. For many centuries on this planet, there has been kind of an archetypal and collective paradigm of very much what many people would call more of a masculine thinking, domineering thinking, one which throughout many what you really call epochs and civilizations that have risen and fallen, you have seen mostly men ruling. And of course, there's always a balance in each person and each society of flavors of more masculine and feminine, domineering and inclusive thinking and ways of being. However, for a long time, it has been quite common for the domineering men to be in charge, and it has been the system that you've been living under, especially many of your ancestors have been living under. And that's just what you've gotten to know. That's okay. And one thing that has been, perhaps you could call literally disheartening to us to be watching from the system is somewhat of a avoiding and ignoring and canceling of the value of the person's will and their purpose and passion and what many term heart energy, whereas this may be one of the most powerful energies that the human can be harnessing and drawing from and running and projecting into their life and throughout dimensions. This is due to natural cycles on this planet and pretty much every planet. And we have said before that this planet is going through its change time, and we see that this may be the final change time of this sort between what many term your long count cycles. And of course, this overlapping and change time is quite natural, but there may not be another episode of Dark Ages, as you would call it, and have known it after this one. And now, one of the mechanisms we'll also be explaining and detailing that is helping with this evolution and change that you've already been witnessing on this planet, as well as will be in an increasing capacity, perhaps, in the coming years, is what we call the Children of New Hope. They are one of the most instrumental and precious, you could call them, simply put, tools or ways that this is happening. Let's get into that. And throughout, we'll also be talking more about and explaining the joy of surrender. So we have described the Children of New Hope in previous teachings. You've already been seeing some generations of them showing up and growing up in recent years. And many of these Children of New Hope are exhibiting skills and abilities that the very logical paradigm of what you term the 20th century should have been even flabbergasted by, amazed by, should not have been able to happen. Many of these children are exhibiting absolutely remarkable musical abilities that they should not have been able to. Many of these children are exhibiting impeccable, seemingly impossible knowledge and memory of how they claim to have died, how certain things actually happened in history, even a century or two ago, that otherwise was not clearly documented. These children are not as their ancestors were, and that's pretty simple to understand as you've been witnessing and some of you have been interacting with them. So, what we want to explain about this Children of New Hope paradigm and epoch that you're now in is that this is a 7-phase cycle, you could call it, or process that many of you have heard of the 3 waves of volunteers, which information has actually come through multiple channels independently, not ripping each other off, as you call it. And that was perhaps the first of this type of transitional process that was tried and implemented, partly to see how well it would turn out and shape out and help the evolution of this planet in this change time. Now, this Children of New Hope process will be perhaps a bit more drawn out and what you may call ramping up, turning up the volume of this type of evolution. And would like to start by delineating that this process started in your year of 2008. Other areas and what you may call spheres of your society also saw great changes in that year. And from the year 2008 to the year throughout the year 2014, that was the first of the 7-year phases of the Children of New Hope of this sort. And that's when they especially started to show up on this planet. And then it was shortly after that, as they were very young, that your media and internet sources started to document them. Then the next of the 7-year increments is the year of 2015 through the year 2022. Each of these 7-year increments is you see a progression of some of their exhibited evolution and also knowledge that they're bringing in. They're all still the Children of New Hope, whereas the first 7-year increment started to bring in a little bit more than what was previously known to be common for children of that age. The second increment then started to bring in even greater wisdom. And some of this you're seeing in the children that are growing up from that second increment right now. And simply put, you can perhaps write down and imagine, understand that now you're in the third of this 7 increment of 7-year phases from the year 2023 through the year 2029. If you would call the first 7-year increment the change makers, you may call the second 7-year increment the inspirers, and now this current 3rd-year increment you may be able to title the actualizers. And there are, of course, 4 more increments coming up of this 49-year process that is implementing. You are seeing already the children of New Hope exhibiting their will for a clean earth, a clean planet to grow up on. You are seeing their great ability and great power to start movements, to start worldwide protests, worldwide resistance to the previous and in this time outdated, very masculine paradigm that some are still clinging on to and living in. There is no doom in this, as these children of New Hope are what you call upgraded more into the light. Simply uh, both their genetics as they've been born into a different energy of this planet that is not how it used to be. That allows their genetics to start operating somewhat cleaner and more efficiently, as well as their spirit, their souls are, um, some of them are not, as many of you have known such evolved souls on this planet. Some are, but they're simply operating better. And one of the traits that we can say right now about the children of New Hope is that they typically have the power, the ability, the innate switch turned on of being able to connect with each other so much better than many, even of those listening and your ancestors have been able to do. And this will be one of the very important and instrumental abilities that they'll be exhibiting in the coming few decades at least and beyond, that will be essential for the planetary evolution that is underway. Instead of, as some of you and your ancestors have commonly done, if you watch the news and are simply told that horrible things are happening, of course, it has been common to some degree care, or even be concerned about what's happening, but you haven't been told and so much acted on what is possible and what you are capable of and your ancestors were capable of to create the change that could stop what's happening. Whereas these children of New Hope did not agree to kind of complacency, if you want to call it that. The children of New Hope have the more collective, what you could call metaphysical ability with just even a few more percentage points or that much more of their DNA awakened, that they have the ability and the innate skill to, if they do choose to listen to what is the current form of your news channels, they know how to change what's happening, how to participate in a different way, and not be told that they can't do something about it. And they will have that much more of a collective, some of you may call it hive mind, although they still their individuality, but just more of a collective mentality that will be essential to the growth and evolution of communities as you know them. We could say, in the nicest and most peaceful way right now, to start holding on to your seats as you see these children growing up, and also advise nurture them. But as you're watching, you may be absolutely amazed at what some of them do, what some of them say, some of the abilities that they exhibit on different levels, their cognition, their intellect. This now is not an age of crawling anymore. It's not an age of confusion. And these children simply cannot and will not be enslaved insubordinated, suppressed, oppressed, they have within them and are claiming and creating the world and the planet of very much peace, cleanliness, the end of war pretty soon, and what has not been seen on this planet for a long time as something like gender equality, gender equity, racial equality and equity. They have within them the commonality of what some may have dreamed as the heaven on earth, a utopian planet eventually. And so that's already quite a bit that we've said about the children of New Hope as they are growing up right now. Now let's get into the joy topic. Again, we would like to explain that joy is one of the highest, most potent states that you can ever actually be in. It is a type of state, inner state, as well as energetic mode that literally opens up potentials of other dimensions, attracts energies and sometimes beings of very highly evolved dimensions to you when you are able to access this state. We understand that some humans fluctuate, but this is how powerful joy can be. And as this teaching is called the joy of surrender, joy needs lightness, and it typically does not operate or happen so much in states of heaviness. If you are holding on to too much, if you are resenting and blaming and setting up too many defenses, keeping yourself in a cocoon, in a little cage, that's not what joy is. Joy is freeing. It is freedom. It can attract greater freedom to you. So this world and the purpose of being here in this, what we call play tricks in this grand game, is not so much to hold on to physical objects, although we realize that some of what you have in this world looks very nice and is very nice. There's always going to be more than enough when you flow with joy. And even if at some moments you appear to not have huge amounts while you're practicing joy, there is more than enough within you to reset, to attract more, to attract another reality. Some have already written books and given lectures and talks and awakened to the practice of surrendering. This has been taught from many planes. And yes, there is a great value in this. It, of course, is not so easy to explain and understand from a rational, intellectual, masculine state of thinking, but just sinking into your heart a bit, enjoying light in your heart and It's about allowing the whatever names you call them, angels, ancestors, spirits, fairies, divine beings, there's so many of them, allowing them to help you, allowing them to fulfill your purchases, your orders, your requests. Even if you didn't verbalize them, they know after your specific how to help you and what to do. They want to do that for you. For example, once any of you sit down at a restaurant, you sit down and find your seat and table, and typically a waiter or waitress comes up to you and you tell them what items on the menu you want, sometimes even customize them. And so after they walk away, all you can do is wait. Don't you understand that this is the same dynamic as how prayer works, and some of you call it attracting or manifesting, shifting into a different state and mode of being? You are never alone, and just as we've been talking about the 22 universal laws, we would like to reference again the law of one, which is not to be confused with the book that's written on this planet of that title, but it is simply a law that states that everything is one and connected. There's never truly any separation and complete disconnection from any beings and pretty much anything from everything else. Some of you have already awakened to the truth that everything, not only plants, minerals, animals, and natural objects, have much life in them, God in them, but God is literally everything, every molecule, every particle, no matter how it's made, no matter how it's used. There's God everywhere and everything, and that can be accessed. Once you place your sincere and clear request, we advise to just let it be and then shift into a state of joy and enjoy that. Enjoy what you have and enjoy watching what you asked for, and often a lot more and in greater ways to occur around you and to you. That is the joy of surrender. We see that many of the children of New Hope who are growing up already know this and already will be able to grasp this quite quickly. Some will just do it, some will perhaps need some reminders from you. It is important for not only those listening, but of course, as much as you can remind them, and really for all humans to connect with the earth, plant your bare feet on the earth, hug trees, smell flowers, feel the warmth of the sunlight caressing your skin, and safely bathe or be cleansed by wild waters. These are some of the essential elements that your creature bodies have been designed for, to be balanced by. We love you so much. There is so much that we see that is lovely from our perspective in this world. Now, as we understand that this is a group channeling and interaction, we now open this group for what do you call Q&A? Questions. We love questions.
Hi, thanks, Kazaya. Thanks again. It's good to be in your presence.
Likewise.
I enjoyed the talk as usual. So one thing I heard in the talk is it sounds like we're on the third generation, if we're counting in 7-year cycles, of rainbow children, or what we call them crystal children, or the children of New Hope, since 2008.
Yes, what we would like to clarify is that some of what you observed as perhaps crystal and children and indigo children, as you've titled them, have been around on this planet since much earlier than 2008. It's this, um, what do you call ramping up phases? Um, some might term it waves, but we also like to call it increments as they're coming in and the planet's energy will be allowing for greater evolution, but they're a bit different than just crystal, indigo, and rainbow children, although they are also similar in some ways. Just the next evolution that is needed to lay foundations for and welcome in and create the basically heaven on earth that this planet is due for.
Thank you for that. And if anybody has a question for Kazaya of the Seraphim Collective, feel free to unmute or turn your video on and ask. So I find it interesting, again, if we can just delve into the children born after 2008. I understand that they will have amazing abilities and things like this. Can we expound upon what we can do as older elders to them or to help guide them in their development?
Yes, this is a valuable question. As we have advised in previous messages, to nurture them as you are witnessing them, and also some of you have more direct contact with them. And one resource, of course, is already the vast, perhaps library you would call it, of information, many types of spiritual teachings from all cultures have already been made available on what you call your internet, as well as in other publications. These are valuable resources for these children to be exposed to for those of you who already perhaps are raising or have contact with some of these children. It may help them as their awakenings unfold as they grow up, for you to either have perhaps a small library for them or any library of any size for them, expose them to some of this, simply just allow them to find it, however they may resonate with certain materials. Also, if you are perhaps of fairly adult and older adult generations, and you are perhaps the parents and grandparents and so forth of some of these children of New Hope, what we might advise is to respect the free wills of the parents of these children. And it's okay if these children happen upon and get into certain topics and development practices on their own. That's their choice, and we honor that. But we advise also to perhaps talk with the parents if they're not so awakened or not so keen to it already. See if perhaps you can propose even a bit of what may be already published and verified scientific evidence of how certain things work, peer-reviewed sources and so forth, if they need that, or if they're simply open to trying something with you, and maybe they can then also teach that or similar knowledge to their children as they're growing up that can help them. These are some of the ways that we can, and that you may be able to help the children of New Hope if you don't already have direct contact with them and you know that they're already on a great awakening journey.
Thank you for that. And Piper had a question here about, can you clarify if all children born in these years are special? Or if not, how do we know which of them are?
Yeah, so I'd like to clarify that not 100% of the children and everyone born in the years 2008 and later will be and are these children of New Hope. Just as this planet has seen generations and a, a fairly considerable increase of what you may term old souls, light workers, even some interstellar souls, and so forth, incarnating generation after generation and in greater numbers. Not all of anyone has been this. There are still many earthbound souls who are awakening perhaps for the first times in this evolutionary change period. Whereas a lot of children and youngsters these days are not the children of New Hope, but they are also some of even reincarnated and simply just growing up earthlings who have not had so much of an old soul background or evolutionary experience in their lifetimes to bring with them. This does not mean that they need to be excluded from anything. We still see that there are many perhaps technologies and even some chemicals, products, and types of information that some of the children and youngsters growing up having a lot of contact with these um, may be harmful to them on different levels. And so we do recommend supervision as much as you have any authority to do so or right to do so. And those who are listening, who may have children or children they can take care of, recommend to be very discerning about some of these technologies as they may not help either the children of New Hope or any children's overall development.
Thank you, and please, we're opening the floor to anyone who would like to ask a question of Kazaya. I want to ask a question. I can try to ask another one here. Kazaya, in the process of transmuting from the living vessel to spirit, what is the amount of time that it takes for a new spirit to get into a mode where they can communicate effectively?
Hmm. Yeah, we love this question. There doesn't have to be a set minimum or maximum or typical durations of time that is required for even younger, less experienced souls with fewer incarnations to be able to perhaps communicate with spirits and connect with energy. These are, as we've said before, some of the abilities of the soul itself simply manifesting as what you call maybe psychic and superhuman or supernatural abilities. And so you will be seeing some of these um, not only on the psychic and energy level, but also perhaps on the more physical, um, tangible um, abilities that these some of these children will be able to do. As to how long it may take, that's partly up to the free will of the human, as well as that being in balance and in some coordination with the will and the chosen soul path and contracts of the oversoul and the higher self for each incarnation. So it some younger souls with fewer incarnations and perhaps more trauma and blockages as you know it may take a bit longer to awaken to more of their soul's truth and awaken more of their abilities on the spiritual levels. But this still can happen relatively quickly, depending on how much they're willing to change, how much they're willing to heal, and how much they're willing to try new things, perhaps. Um, for those who don't seem to be awakened in the eyes of many of you who are a bit more awakened, they're still in their own path, and part of the purpose of this planetary evolution process in this grand game playing field is so that when a planet reaches certain times basically in its evolution and also kind of enhanced by what you call the solar flash and other celestial energies coming in to accelerate things, then this process already is set up to lend more of an evolution guarantee of planets and their evolving peoples.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I wanted to ask if you could maybe teach us a prayer or meditation that we could use to invoke the protection of the angelic realms, especially when we're, say, counseling someone or healing someone or doing a reading with someone. Thank you.
You may be able to customize some of this and other specific invocations and techniques yourself, but what we can recommend is to start by stating your name, the name that you know in this body, and stating your intention for protection, for assistance, um, or for simply the presence of certain angels and beings or energies to be with you and to be clear about what your purpose is. If you state if you request for protection, if you request for safety, if you request for perhaps assistance in healing, if you request for assistance in gaining clarity and answers, if you request for assistance in perhaps even casting some sort of spell or magic or request, prayer, be clear about that. And then what may help is to actually, after your invocation and your purpose of what you're doing and what you request, to just be you, let them be them, and feel your own self, perhaps starting with your heart and all of what you know is yourself, and feel the actual energy and presences of the spirits and the energies around you in whatever space you find yourself in. What we can also recommend for invoking protection and such practices is after the invocation, it's not just one way to do it, but to not just allow somewhat blindly for things to happen and for spirits to be there all that they are, but really feel them, even in any somewhat perhaps murky and not so clear state that you may be able to at first feel what you feel of them, see what you see, hear what you hear. This helps strengthen the communication by you being a part of what is happening and what is there. Does this answer your question?
Yes, beautifully, perfectly. Thank you. Would anybody else like to ask a question? Please go ahead.
I would like to know more about joy and what you had said earlier about the power of joy and how can we embody more of that in our life, in our healing practice, in our meditation, even during times when our human might think is more challenging. Thank you.
We love this question and thank you for asking. Joy is, of course, an emotional state. It's just something that happens and is loud. Similar to laughter, you don't really think about it, it just happens and it's pleasant. How you can utilize it more, perhaps in your healing practice, in your life, in the ways that you know to kind of trigger and activate joy. We recommend making even a daily practice of these things, little things, and um, a regular practice. And as you are able to get more kind of clarity and strength of this joy ability in you, you may find that this can get stronger actually, and it just becomes a more regular state as you do this. This can have a healing effect on parts of your body and brain as you have a regular, um, perhaps at certain times of the day, or also just throughout the day, daily, and regular states of joy. Just as what you know as your nuclear bombs and similar technologies, many of you who are listening live and even later already are aware that the activation and use of these technologies is not safe, but they also have a more metaphysical and spiritual effect on literally sending waves and charges of energy that didn't used to be there throughout other dimensions. Um, they're not just three-dimensional destructive energies. For example, a nuclear bomb isn't, and it does affect beings in many, many other dimensions and planes of existence. And in the same way, joy is a more positive and beneficial and much more welcomed charge and effect similar to that. Whereas it is, of course, very radiant and similar to how the sun radiates warm energy. It has its own effect of radiating joy from you, and such high energy states, high energy frequencies also do get sent out to other dimensions, through other dimensions, get picked up by the beings in there, but in a positive light. And so it's these beings who are resonant with that joy state, that joy energy, that then spend more time around you, perhaps, by practicing this regularly. Does that answer your question?
Yes, very excellent and beautiful. Thank you.
We are honored.
Jess, would you like to ask a question?
I'm good. I'm just soaking it all in.
Don't be shy. We have a little bit more time, or if we don't have any more questions, we should be respectful of Troy's time and let him take a break. If not, I think we got a lot of beautiful messages today, guys. That was amazing. I love the question about joy, Derek, by the way. That was great. I was just practicing some joy this week. I'm trying to make that part of my daily practice as well. So thank you guys all for showing up. Thank you for coming. Thanks for the questions. And thank you, Kazaya, for the answers. And we'll let you go.
As always, it has been an honor to be able to convey these messages, answer your questions in this way. And as usual, we recommend the regular practice of putting your bare feet on the earth, hugging trees, smelling flowers, feeling the sun warm your skin, and cleansing in wild waters safely. We are always available on your request, and we're happy to help you.
Thank you for all this great practical advice. We appreciate it.
Okay. Well, that is that teaching. I'm glad we were able to do this.
Everybody kind of bounced out real quick, but that's all
Yeah,
right.
looks like it. That's okay. Um,